Real Life Street Stars. We in here with Coach. What it is, man?
Yeah, what up? It's your boy, Coach, representing the RSVP lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, baby.
For everybody who don't know, deaf, dumb, stupid, man, living up under a rock. Tell them how long you been. Tell them more about yourself, man, because a lot of people don't know what kind of influence you've had on DFW music and what you've done for artists in the city, man. So we wanna touch on that. We wanna fill them in.
Man, I came in this business in 2001. Founded and funded G4 Records, which was home to Playing Skills, 2-time Grammy Award winning. My first company garnered 2 Grammys. Shout out to Playing Skills, G4 Music. You can Google that. I got in the game, with those guys. Flip actually gave us our first opportunity. He had just went platinum on Underground Legend, and we ran into him at a club. And long story short, we got him to come back to the studio. And he heard some beats, and the rest is history. And we wound up having 12 songs on his sophomore album, You Gotta Feel Me, which had the Game Over record, the Sunshine record, and wound up being his biggest selling record to this day. We got 12 songs on that one. We did the song with Ludacris, Static, rest in peace. And at the time, he was called Titty Boy. Now he's 2 Chainz. We had the song with that one, and we did the Cameron joint. We did the Ludacris joint. We just said that one. We did the Jim Jones joint. And we did practically the whole album. So that's what put us in the game. We got a publishing deal off of that.
So at this point, were you managing? You were managing them,
Actually,
right?
co-owned the company.
Oh, you co-owned the company.
Right.
So it was a production company that you co-owned?
Yeah, it's G4 Records, yep.
So how crazy was it? Because I know, I'm from Texas, you know what I mean? And Lil Flip had a big influence on a lot of people in Texas. So how crazy was it to actually win something special with him?
Man, it was an honor, man, being from Texas like you just touched on. He had a lot of influence, on a lot of people's sound early on. I remember being in barber school in '97.
Yeah.
The funny thing, that's when I first heard the I Blow Window, You Might See Me on Jay Leno freestyle.
Leno, yeah.
Right, so then fast forward time, now the guy's sitting in my studio, and actually he was pretty much living in my studio, because at the time, him and his old previous management with Hump, they weren't seeing eye to eye.
Yeah.
And so Flip came to Dallas, and he spent the whole summer out here, and man, just recording with that guy, man, we did close to 200 songs, bro.
Damn, man, where them songs at?
Yeah.
Where them songs at?
We put some out. You can still go out and purchase projects that we put out. Yeah.
Definitely.
Shout out to George Lopez. George Lopez, he sold a lot of those projects for us.
Yeah, shout out George, man. You said barber school, man. Was that not did you try to take that serious, or did it not go the way?
I'm actually a very good barber.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I was in barber school.
Yeah.
And then I wound up getting into the streets.
Yeah.
And once I got in the streets, that's when I got my music money and got into the music business.
2001. Paint the picture as far as for you. What was the music scene like? Was it Texas only for you, or were you when you got into the game as far as making a company and said we're gonna get into this music stuff? Did you have the nation in your mind or the world in your mind?
Yeah, I really did. Because my ear was really all over the place. Music, sonically for me. 2001, I was a real Fabulous fan. I was really into Method Man, and I was really into Jay-Z. I was into I was really East Coast influence. But I still listened to the South stuff. But me, I always had an aspiration to work with Fabulous, work with hopefully Jay-Z, all those guys. And I remember being in the studio one day, and Playing Skills used to have, they used to have a production room. It was really small. We started off on the second floor, and they used to have pictures of every artist, right? Every artist, just posters, just plastered everywhere. And I remember sitting there one day, and I had a vision. I was like, yo, it was a voice in my head telling me, you about to meet all these people with these guys. And that's what made me want to go into business with them, because that little epiphany that I had that day, I was like, okay, cool, yeah.
Man, and it's funny because even sitting here looking at you, man, you look like you could be an artist yourself, man. And you got Playing Skills right there. Did it ever make you want to just say, let me get up in there?
Nah, you know what? People,
I know you got a hidden track somewhere, bro. You got a good 8, bro. Give us 8, bro.
Nah, you know what?
Give us 8.
Everybody's always told me that. It's crazy because a lot of people have told me that I look like an artist myself. But, man, I played my role, man. I don't want to be in the cameras. I do interviews. I do a lot of interviews because a lot of people know my story, and so I get called for interviews. But I'll do interviews. But as far as like if I'm dealing with an artist, like I don't want to be in their videos. I don't want to be in their photo shoots. Like I'm cool with just playing behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm cool. Nah, I'm cool.
So
I'm cool.
being in the position that you play, I know that you're being knowledgeable, coming in the game. How much artist mentoring do you do?
Excuse me, say that again?
How much artist mentoring do you do?
Oh, wow, man. That's every day, man. I could do that every day. And just not with just artists, you know, other managers and, you know, other producers, you know, they'll call me, reach out and, you know, ask me for advice. And I do, you know, sometimes, you know, when you deal with artists, it's like you deal with artists, but you're also like their parent.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of, you know, not just music, you know, I give a lot of mentorship on just life because I've been through a lot, you know, like when I got in the streets, I got out, I saved up money, I got out, I got in the record business, I met playing them. And, you know, we didn't see eye to eye on certain things. I left, I got back in the streets, and then I had to go do 5 years in the feds. I came home, I met different people, like different artists. I'm actually just signed an artist named IMAJ. Man, that kid's so talented. Me and my bro Spank, shout out to Spank. It's my business partner. We signed this kid IMAJ, and man, we've been everywhere.
So when dealing with a certain artist, I know after dealing with them so much and doing so much for artists and, you know, and then not receiving the same love that you gave, people tend to get jaded. Have you ever felt like, you know, I'm done just trying to help boys get to a certain place?
Yep.
How do you come back from a feeling like that?
Man, you know what? I felt like that plenty of times, and that's a good question because I've tried to quit the music business plenty of times. And I always want to revert back to my first love, which is cutting hair. Because my name itself and my skills, once I tell somebody I'm cutting in a barbershop, it's over with, bro. Like, I'm going to be swamped. Yeah, so it's like, but I've tried to do that. But when God has a purpose for you and a calling for you, man, you can say that you don't want to do something no more, but that's what you're saying. But when God has a purpose for you and he reveals that purpose to you through numerous things, that it's almost like a conviction that God gives you that this is what you were made to do, which is, for me, in my case, music was my calling, what I should do, you know what I mean?
Hey, question. So when did you actually start managing? You know, I know you said that you were with them, you were co-managing, you know. So what made you say, I'm going to actually start managing and developing artists? Like,
I actually, when I was running the company with Playing Skills, like I was the engineer, right? I was a DJ.
Yeah.
Like I was also like in charge of the day-to-day. So I kind of got my feet wet back then in managing. But when I came home is when I really, really started, you know.
You were answering all the calls?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's managing one-on-one.
Yeah. And handling the day-to-day and, you know, being the point of contact when we go do shows and, you know, all that stuff, that type of stuff.
So can you please define this for the artists that are looking at this? What is the role of a manager? Because I think a lot of them get that confused. So
yeah.
Can you break that down?
Well, a manager, basically, he just handles your day-to-day, you know, affairs, you know, it could be anywhere from people trying to get in contact with you for bookings, for features, and, you know, you kind of have to structure that artist, you know, month, you know, or the week, you know, just get agenda set. A manager, everybody has their own really, you know, the definition, but overall, in my professional opinion, you know, a manager really not supposed to, you know, fund you. A manager is not supposed to be your daddy. You know, a manager is not supposed to be, you know, basically not supposed to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We manage your career.
Right. But at the same time, you have to have something to manage.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of cats, I think that's what's, you know, kind of missing in the game as far as, you know, a person like you know, as far as needing quality management. I know you were saying as far as you get a lot of phone calls from even people today and you have a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
Do you still give free game or do you be like, you got to?
It depends. It depends on who it is. Like, you know, I'm all about helping people because that's just in my nature, you know, to help people. But, you know, the game is to be sold, not to be told. Facts. You feel me? And I pick and choose who I choose to sharpen up. If I see potential in people, then I'll be like, okay, cool, you know, like, I give game without expecting anything because eventually, if I see potential, because I have a good eye for talent.
Yeah.
And even
That's where it starts.
Yeah.
That's where it
You know, I have a good eye for talent, whether it be with artists, whether it be with producers, or whether it be with managers. Like, I know a lot of managers that are really dominating the game right now that I used to mentor and give game to. Like, I used to, a lot of people don't even know, I used to mentor and give a lot of advice to Roxy from 106 in Park. You know what I'm saying? And she used to, you know, shout out to Raquel. She's a real good person. Absolutely, she did, because she used to work at Town East Mall at Foot Action.
Are you fucking serious?
Dead ass serious.
Wow.
Dead ass serious. And so then she got a night shift job at 97.9 The Beat. She used to have the overnight show, and nobody really listened to her show. And so I used to date one of her friends at the time, and so she used to be like, "Hey, do you have any advice for me?" It's like, "Yeah, you know what? You should get one of your people to record your shows and figure out your strong points and what you should work on, et cetera, et cetera." And then she got a job in Boston for a better slot. And she called me one day. She was like, "Man, all the advice you gave me really worked." So shout out to her, man. She's doing her thing.
So what is when you're trying to figure out what type of artist you're going to manage, and I know you deal with a multitude of artists, do you prefer artists with zero talent but the grind and the attitude, or artists with so much talent but really doesn't have the makings to be marketable?
Man, I always say this. I live and die by this. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how good you are, right? I want to know how good you are to work with.
Amen.
Because that's a different story, and that's really good that you said that. Because I'd rather take an artist that's less talented but has the you know, the intangibles of being open-minded and being, you know, just a sponge. You know, because I can take a blank canvas and I can get with some producers I work with. I can get with some songwriters that I work with, and I can get with directors that I work with. I can get with stylists that I work with, and I can put some with some and make some. You know what I mean?
Amen. And I'm glad you said that, because it's like in today's market, it's like labels or individuals, they're not interested in building an artist.
No.
You don't see that anymore. You see, they just putting artists out there fresh.
Yeah.
Don't have any, training,
No.
coaching,
Right.
no type of media coaching, anything. They just put them out there. They make a bunch of mistakes, say a bunch of stupid things or things they don't mean, and it dilutes what the game is really.
And that's
about.
why the game is the way it is.
Right.
Because I always say this: artist development ain't dead. It's just these labels is scared. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. Because artist development,
the way these kids doing drugs.
yeah, artist development is a real lost art form these days. Yeah. Because it's a very microwave era that we're in sonically, musically. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like artist development is a lost art form that needs to be brought back to the labels. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, bro, that's a very crucial key in an artist, because you can have a dope artist, right? And then you get them in front of some big platforms, some big stages, and some big interviews. You go get them in front of some LA media and some New York media, and they're gonna just look like a deer in headlights. And that goes back on who's managing this kid, who's this kid signed to. Like, why aren't they working on this kid's PR? You know what I mean? Like, why are they working on this kid's performance on stage? You know what I'm saying? A lot of that plays into factor, because in turn that causes people not to want to tune into that artist.
Now you actually have an artist, IMAJ, R&B singer.
Oh man, shout out to IMAJ. Yeah.
Now, how did you find IMAJ? There's rarely any R&B singers that surface in Dallas.
Man, it's crazy. I found IMAJ on Instagram.
Yeah.
So shout out to IMAJ, man. He's actually an R&B artist, but he also raps. But he also produces R&B music. He produces rap music.
He's a triple threat.
Yeah, he's amazing, bro. Like, those type of talents, they're like needle in a haystack. So I found him on Instagram one day, and I was scrolling down just normally.
Yeah. And
I was like, okay, cool. I started going, and I actually clicked into a page of his, and I ran across this song called Netflix and Chill. Yeah. And the song was dope, and I was like, this kid's in Dallas. So I DM'd him. I was like, yo, what's good? Let's work. So he was like, wow, a couple of people have been telling me that I should work with you.
Did he respond right away, or was it like a delay?
Yeah, no, he responded right away. And so we had a meeting at his house, and I met him, and I heard this one record called Something Real.
Yeah.
And I kept a poker face. I was like, oh, that's a smash. But I didn't let him know. I was like, yo, this kid is dope. I was just looking at him. I was like, he's marketable. I was like, damn, this kid is dope. And he produced the record, and he wrote the record. I was like, whoa. So then I approached him with a proposition, and long story short, me and my bro Spank, we wind up signing him, and shoot, the rest is history.
Right now, he's out touring with Tank.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. A lot of kids watching this trying to figure out how do I make it in the game, and what a manager does for me. How does one get onto a tour with a known artist? Like, how does one go from making music in their closet, producing good music,
right,
getting a manager, and then now it's time to tour. Let me link up with someone that's already on.
Man, it's just, you know what, you got to know the right people, and you just got to have some. When you get in front of those type of artists, right? In order for those artists to even take you serious, your body of work has to be up to par, right? And I'm talking about like from the pen, I'm talking about from the way it sounds, mix, because Tank's a real detailist. Like Tank listens to like drums. He listens to if that 808 is played out. He listens to like little things that people don't even understand. So when the situation with Tank came about, Tank heard his project and he was like, yo, this kid's project is sick. Like, let's go on tour. Like, he needs to come on tour with me. So it's like such a dream come true. Like, right? Like, I come home, I sign an R&B act, and he's now on tour with one of the greatest R&B legends to ever grace
Tank.
the mic. So it's like, that couldn't be nothing but God to write that story, right? Like,
God's plan.
Man.
Now, does the artist's head go through the roof at that point? Like, how do you manage the ego at that point?
It's
because I know you got to kind of like, Tank said my album. You know what I mean?
It actually didn't, man. You know what? IMAJ is such a humble kid, man. Like when we went on tour, like he was just learning every day. Like he was such a sponge. Like he didn't let none of that get to his head, right? And it's crazy because IMAJ went from having a 10-minute set, and in the middle of the tour, a lot of things happened because one of Tank's artists was on tour with us, so he wound up getting sent home for whatever reason. So then it came up to me. He's like, hey, does IMAJ have more music to perform? I was like, absolutely he does. So IMAJ went from having a 10-minute set to almost a 20-minute set. In the last show, they came at me and was like, yo, he's doing 30 minutes tonight. And so I told IMAJ, IMAJ was like, what am I to do in 30 minutes? But, man, shout out to IMAJ. They threw him in the water and he swam up. He didn't sink. Real talk. Yeah, man.
Now, being from the DFW, we were known, and I think this stigma is fading a little bit, but we were known as the city of hate, and meaning as there was a lot of hate from artists hating on each other, and it was creating an aura in the city that nobody could make it out of Dallas. But now we have artists that are coming up, the Yellow Beezies, the Trap Boys, the Mo 3s, the Yayos, and it's starting to look like there might be, a silver lining. How was it back in the day when you could see the trouble that was keeping Dallas stagnant, and it's like, I know I could fix this, but it was like it would take something monumental to fix.
Man, you know what? That's a good question, because coming from back in early 2000s, like it was a different ball game out here, than it is today. Like back then, we were really stuck in the crabs in a barrel mentality. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, everybody would hate on each other, and everybody was just trying to, like, I came in the game through a different door. All those guys are trying to get in through the front door, because we came in on the beats. With the beat side, we went through the back door.
Exactly.
Because the beats got us in through the back door. So we came at it through a different angle. But now these guys are starting to figure out, like, if you really listen to, like, and shout out to Go Yayo and Yellow Beezy and Trap Boy Freddy and Lil Ronnie, all these guys, if you really notice what changed, you really look into in between the lines, like what changed. What changed was these guys started doing music with each other.
There you go.
So you look at Trap Boy Freddy and Yellow Beezy, like these guys co-sign each other. These guys
got tracks.
and they got videos together. Yeah. So that's what changes dynamics, and now everybody's like, oh, those dudes are dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, and on top of that, those guys make good music too. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And you said you have a real good ear for talent, music, production, and kind of what you see.
Yeah.
as far as the artists in Dallas, what do you see that's working well for them, and what do you see they could grow more so to compete with an international scale?
Man, I feel production starting off. I feel production. Because you got to understand, like with Atlanta, right? We always got to use that reference because Atlanta's a market that it's a southern market, predominantly urban market that's being urban ran, right? So it's a lot of competition. But with that being said, those guys know how to construct records. They know how to get outside songwriting. Quavo knows how to make a hit record because Quavo does what he does, but he might have a hook. He might have somebody come in and write a hook, or a nationwide sounding hook, and those guys know how to make records. So I feel production and also I'm a real big detailer on visuals, on what the artists look like, dress like, that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? That type. Because if you look international and sound, that's what you're gonna be. That's what you're gonna be. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that also too.
So we know you love Dallas, but if you could be born in any other city and built your career in any other city, what would it be and why?
Miami.
Yeah.
Miami because I feel like the music hubs shift. Like Atlanta might be the it spot for like 3-4 years, and then they'll shift to Miami, and then Miami will shift to LA. Like right now, it's Miami because of the Latin stuff that's taken over, right? You pay attention to like Cardi B's done, she's done the Latin stuff. A lot of people are dabbing into the Latin stuff these days because you pay attention to these charts. There's only 2 relevant music genres. It's urban and Latin. So I feel like it would be Miami because it's just a mixture of, Latin and, urban out there.
Yesterday there was an article that surfaced that said musicians only get 12% of the $43 billion the music industry has generated in 2017.
Yeah, I saw that.
So with that being said, obviously there's room to grow. Where do you think that will happen? Because they say most of this was from touring.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So do you think they have streaming figured out? Is that gonna grow exponentially? Like, what do you think?
Man, I feel like that number acquires only for artists that fall under the major label umbrella, because the guys who are independent, really making a name for themselves and really, being consistent on dropping all this content and music and consistently doing numbers on the streaming, those guys get to take home the bag for themselves and their team. So, but when I saw that number, I just cringed because
that's very low.
That's very low, man. Very low.
I mean, that is extremely low.
Yeah, so that just goes to show artists, man, that you really, really have to be on top of your business, and you really have to think outside the box on how you're getting your content to your viewers and your following, man. Like, I feel if you really read that article, Senate is about to do something, and they're gonna pass a bill that is gonna really, really, be to the leverage of writers and producers, which it should be.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm all for the producer and I'm all for the writers and I'm all for the artists. You know what I'm saying? Like
let me ask you, do you think is it better now than it's been? Because I know back then people were getting a couple cents per CD, quote unquote. So it almost feels like maybe.
But back then they were selling hard copies.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why you had the Chameleonaires making a lot of money, Slim Thug making a lot of money off of their hard copies, because they were selling hard copies. But these days, I feel the streaming, in my opinion, I feel the streaming really messed up a lot of revenue for artists. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I just think it needs to be figured out somehow or another.
So being that you have to mentor a lot of artists, and you see the benefits of being independent versus signing to a label, how do you talk to an artist and tell them, because a lot of artists is young, they don't have much. When they come in the game, they don't have anything, and they come out with these hits, and these labels are offering them $500,000, $1 million. How do you talk artists into telling and letting them know that, hey, your craft is worth more, you can get more if you just apply yourself in different avenues?
Man, you know what? It's like this, right? When that number he just read with the industry dominating what the artist intakes and and you got to understand on top of that number that the industry is gaining because they're winning, right? So the artist is left with peanuts. So now that the artist is left with peanuts, now they got to break that down with management, they got to break that down with their attorneys, and they got to break that down with taxes. So really, it's nothing, right? So these artists have to figure out that they themselves are a brand and a business, and it's like, I was watching an interview the other day. It was really, really, I forgot who the interview was, but anyways, they were making a point that each artist it's like a Dropbox company, right? Dropbox IPO, and they're able to employ numerous employees but Dropbox is the brand.
Right.
The artist is the brand because without the artist, the label doesn't make the number he just said, right? So until these artists grasp that concept that they themselves are the product that's feeding they need to figure out that I just feel like they need to get more business savvy in their approach to everything that they do as artists, getting their content out and just selling, you know what I mean? Period.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like actors. You know, actors, they make a movie for $2 million, they get paid $2 million, the movie goes off and gross $1 billion. They don't really see the money, but it's all about the contracts, managers, and paperwork.
Right.
Get that stuff done early on.
Right.
But actors they just love their talent so much that you know, they just jump into it with their talent, not with the business. I saw on your gram, man, speaking of interviews, that you did repost a Zaytoven interview saying that a producer coming up should find an artist growing, stick with them, and then make magic. Tell us your thoughts on that as far as, you know.
So like, say for instance, right, producers. You got certain producers that get in this mindset of being placement producers. I call them placement producers. And much respect to the guys who are getting placements, and hey man, much respect. But there's a flip side to it. So you got the Chris Browns, you got the Justin Biebers, you got, you know, the J. Coles, all these guys that are dominating right now, right? So this is how it really works. Producers submitting tracks to those guys. The window is so small, getting to Chris Brown, right? To get tracks through that little small opening because it's political, right? Chris Brown automatically wants 30% of your publishing. It don't matter who producer you are. That's just what it is. So on top of that, whoever's letting those beats go through the hole on the other side, they have producers that are assigned to them that they get publishing off of. So who do you think he's gonna let? Which he's a gatekeeper on who he has to say so on what tracks are gonna get placed on Chris's album. A lot of these guys have producers signed to them. So who do you think he's gonna give dibs to on the tracks that get on Chris's album? His producers. So these producers get so one track minded, like, oh man, I gotta make this Chris Brown album. But meanwhile, they can attach their sound to up and coming artists that has the potential to be the next Chris Brown, that has the look to be the next Chris Brown, right? So me personally, I'd rather attach my sound as a producer to that artist that's gonna be the new Chris Brown, because what that's gonna do is that's gonna allow you to kick the door down on this publishing deal. That's gonna allow you to kick the door down when acts sign an act and they become a flagship artist, they open up a new budget. So now so then they go say, okay, cool. Like, who is responsible for this new flagship artist sound? They'll be like, oh, okay, Coach is. So now Coach and that new artist are gonna go break the door down on this publishing deal.
FY, Jay White did it from, out of Dallas.
Yep.
Cardi
Jay
B,
White.
Bodak Yellow.
I like it.
We can talk about Sean on the Beat and Yellow Beezy. They have a sound.
Exactly.
Tay Keith and Black Boy JB. Now you see Tay Keith everywhere.
Shout out to Sean on the Beat. Him and Yellow Beezy are doing what they're supposed to do.
Right. So does Coach? I know you have IMAJ. Do you have any other artists that you're working with? What does it take? What does it take for an artist to be under your team? Is it like something that they can? Are you looking for talent or?
Yeah, I am looking for. Right now, I'm just looking for producers and songwriters. I'm building up the production company right now.
How can you tell that a songwriter's good? Because one thing that killed
structure
me was,
on records, like
was
how they
like Quentin Miller, right? Like I couldn't see that. Like if I was Drake, I don't see how he saw that.
I could.
Can you?
Could, yeah.
Well, like when you listen to him, what stood out to you about Quentin Miller?
He understands melody.
Yeah.
Right. He understands melody. He understands structure on records. Like whenever I hear a songwriter, like I hear his pen, like I hear how he arranges his harmonies. I hear how topics to me is everything. Like I because I always put out there I'm looking for songwriters, so they'll send me their stuff, and some topics are corny, you know what I mean? Like, so I kind of detect the it factor in songwriters as well.
Is there a career in this game for songwriters? Because
yes.
a lot of people realize they're like, I want to be the artist.
No.
And they feel like that's it. Like, I have to be the artist.
How does a person go there is no path to say, I want to be a songwriter, right? Nobody knows how to really do that.
Man, you know what? It's songwriters always start off as artists.
Right. Exactly.
And they say, you know what? I'm gonna just fall back and go shop these songs. And like James Fauntleroy, I don't know if you guys know who James Fauntleroy is.
No.
Anyways, James Fauntleroy wrote all of Bruno Mars's hit records. Oh, wow. 24 Karat, all of them. And he wrote all of Justin Timberlake's 2020 album. All of it.
Do you think they should start like when with the award shows, like
they
actually
do.
like recognize?
They do.
Come up and talk, because I've never
they
seen
do.
it.
ASCAP Awards, they have the BMI
Gotcha.
Awards, and
Gotcha.
they win Songwriter of the Year, etc. It's not. I feel like it should be covered more. It should be exploited more.
Right.
But yeah, songwriters is where it's at, bro.
Yeah, because when I went
songwriters is where it's at.
I went to LA with Jay White, and I saw how they moved, and it was basically like the label would put a songwriter in there.
Yep.
And then they would work on it before the artists even got there. Then the artists get there, then they just polish it up.
Yeah, because these labels sign, these major labels, they sign these songwriters.
Right.
And they'll sign them to like 5-song deals, right? But you really owe them 10 songs. Yeah. Because when you sign a 5-song deal, each song that you write on, it's half. It's a machine. So in order to equivalent one full song, you have to do 2 songs.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't know that going in, which is crazy. But of course, that's deep in the game.
Right.
Just real quick before we get out, I know, speaking of Miami, being from Dallas, we lost some great ones. C.
Man,
Scruggs,
rest in peace, C. Scruggs.
XXX, man. Yeah, man. Just
Lil KT.
Lil KT. I mean, it seems like we're losing some of our legends and greats.
Yeah.
As far as what is your thoughts on, these artists and their music and their legacy they put out, and just kind of forward thinking for some of these artists that are maybe down either a violent path or maybe down, with drugs, things like that. Some things get in the way.
Yeah, man. You know what? It's sad because, I'm a student of the game, so I kind of pay attention to what everybody is doing. It's a part of my job description to do that. Like, I have to do that. So, it's sad to see where the game is at, man. Like a lot of these guys, these youngsters, man, they got a wave, they're hot, but they're also killing themselves internally with all these drugs they're using. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the new generation is really on some, pill popping, suicidal type of mindset. You know what I mean? It's sad to see that, because a lot of these guys have the potential to really have a long career, and just bring so much more to the game than just, basically, unfolding their own demise.
Facts.
Because that's what it is. That's what they're doing, you know what I mean? And, a lot of these guys, because these days, unfortunately, man, like, you got to have some sort of drama and some sort of publicity stunt or whatever it is to get people tuned into you.
Right.
Unfortunately, that comes with a lot. Some people start problems and they start beefs with people that they really shouldn't. And then, in turn, that causes them to get shot or killed. You know what I mean? Like, that's not cool.
These are facts.
Because at the end of the day, the only person who's benefiting off of that is the label.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the label just sitting back. And the label just sitting back like, yeah, let those guys kill each other. And that's not cool.
Replaceable items.
Right.
Man. Well, damn it. I mean, got a lot of knowledge, man. I mean, if they don't take away anything from this interview, you know what I'm saying? Definitely they need to take away. They need to call you. Yeah. if they lost, they need to call you, man. Yeah. We got Coach in the building, man. Coach, man, you got any shout outs you want to give, man?
Man, I just want to give a shout out to my team, man. Shout out to Spank. Shout out to BC. Shout out to my bro Vegas. Shout out to my bro Bling came with me. If it was for him, I wouldn't be in the music business. Man, that's it, man. My team, bro. RSVP Lifestyle.
Definitely, man. Go ahead and drop your social media info, man, as far as social medias and
stuff. Follow me on Instagram at Coachrsvp. That's COACHRSVP. That's it.
That's everything, man.
Yep.
Hey, I mean, honestly, a legend is on the couch right now, man. If y'all don't know this man, y'all get to know this man. Y'all hit this man up. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he is taking on calls. Let's just say that.
Yes.
He will take your call.
DM me, songwriters, producers, DM me. We're building the team.
Coach in the building, man. Real life street stars, man. We in this thing.
Yep.
Hey.
Shout out Reallyfe street stars, nigga. Move it. Hey.